In the grand hall of Pharaoh, Moses stands before the throne, his voice echoing with divine authority. He confronts Rameses, the man he once called brother, with a chilling message from the God of the Hebrews. "Thus saith the Lord God of Israel," he declares, "let my people go." But Rameses, his heart hardened by pride and power, scoffs at the command. He sees not a prophet, but a traitorous shepherd challenging the might of a god-king. The air crackles with tension as the Pharaoh mockingly asks, "The slaves are my property. Who is this Lord that I should obey his voice?" Defying the divine decree, Rameses proclaims that the slaves' burdens will be doubled, their spirits crushed under the weight of his unyielding rule. As the court murmurs in agreement, the stage is set for a monumental klesha, battle not of armies, but of wills between a pharaoh and a god. Moses, holding the staff given to him by God, meets Pharaoh's defiance with unwavering faith. He warns Rameses that the gods of Egypt are powerless before the one true God, who will demonstrate his might through signs and wonders. The Pharaoh's priests, robed in splendor, step forward, their own staffs ready to challenge the power Moses claims. Rameses, with an arrogant smirk, commands his magicians to perform their enchantments, seeking to expose Moses as a mere charlatan. But Moses stands firm, his gaze fixed on the symbol of Pharaoh's power, the Nile, the very lifeblood of Egypt. His voice rings out, a prophecy of the coming plague. "By this you shall know that I am the Lord." His words hang in the air like a death sentence, a solemn promise of divine retribution engraved upon the heart of the moment. The staff of a shepherd is about to challenge the scepter of a king, marking the beginning of Egypt's suffering. The court moves to the banks of the sacred Nile, its waters shimmering under the Egyptian sun. Pharaoh, surrounded by his priests and soldiers, watches with contempt as Moses and Aaron approach the river's edge. Rameses, ever defiant, challenges Moses to show him this God who would dare command a pharaoh. He points to the Nile, declaring it a source of life that has blessed his kingdom for millennia. But Moses, his face grim, raises his staff, its shadow falling upon the water. He proclaims that the very river Pharaoh worships will turn against him, a symbol of God's wrath. The air grows still, broken only by the lapping of the waves against the stone embankment. It is a moment of divine judgment, where the power of man is pitted against the will of heaven, where the life-giving waters of a nation are about to become a river of death. The Nile, eternal witness to Egypt's glory, is poised to become the first victim of its ruler's hardened heart. On the Nile's glistening surface, Moses strikes the water with his staff, and a wave of crimson spreads like a fatal wound. The sacred river, once a symbol of purity and abundance, turns to blood before the horrified eyes of the court. The Egyptian priests recoil in terror, their own gods rendered silent and impotent. Pharaoh stands motionless, his arrogance shattered by the terrifying spectacle. The water that nourished his people now reeks of death, its fish floating lifeless on the corrupted tide. The cries of his people echo through the stillness, a lament for the desecration of their most holy source of life. In that moment, the fate of Egypt is sealed, a promise of further plagues to come if Pharaoh's heart remains unchanged. Though the king is powerful, destiny has revealed a greater force, the God of Moses, who has turned the heart of Egypt into a river of blood. As the blood-red Nile flows grimly onward, Pharaoh watches the horrifying transformation, his heart filled with a mixture of fury and fear. He knows that this moment has unleashed a power he cannot control, a direct assault on his divine authority. The foul stench rising from the water is a prophecy of the decay that will soon grip his kingdom. In the splendor of his palace, the priests desperately try to replicate the miracle with their own enchantments, but their efforts are futile against the might of the Hebrew God. Rameses, though shaken, remains defiant, refusing to yield to this unseen power. Yet he knows this plague was not a trick of magic. It was a declaration of war from a God he cannot see. Beneath the blazing Egyptian sun, the corrupted river flows toward the sea, carrying with it a warning, a judgment, and the beginning of God's relentless campaign to free his people from the bonds of slavery.